All right, we are live. Welcome back to If Duck Can Do It podcast. We are a podcast where we inspire others to follow their interests and learn what being a self starter means to them. This is episode 2, where we are welcoming Brian Walker of A Day Without Love. I'm so excited to bring this guest on. Incredible musician. I've been listening to their music nonstop. Please give a warm welcome to Brian.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be here. This is really a true honor and privilege, and I look forward to talking to you.
Amazing. It's so awesome to have you here. Brian, how about we start by you telling our audience a little bit about yourself?
Certainly. So, my journey as a musician, just like playing the instrument, starts when I was 18 years old. I'm 35 now, so I'm about 17 years into it. In terms of like being a recording and gigging artist, that started when I was 24. I'd fooled around in college, but I don't really consider that like a time of like taking it seriously. I was just like figuring it out. And then like when I was in grad school, I had a temporary period of like having a job, having an internship, playing in a different band, and I was homeless because of Hurricane Sandy. And that's kind of like where A Day Without Love became a thing, because the band name started because I saw a spousal abuse incident in college, and I stopped that incident from happening. But when I was homeless, I kind of started to struggle with like respecting myself for a situation which objectively wasn't my fault. It was Hurricane Sandy, but I was just trying to figure out like, I don't love where I am. I don't love where I'm at. How can I rise above this? How can I do better and help other people do better? And that's kind of like why I wrote the band name A Day Without Love, because, I stopped a spousal abuse incident. I was homeless and all these other things, so I wanted to just make myself better. So I hit up a friend, and I was graduating grad school. They were graduating recording school. We put some things together, and I started in Philadelphia. That's where I'm from. And flash forward literally 10 years later, coming up on 11, because March will be the anniversary of my first record, EP rather. I've just become like a full-fledged touring musician. It's not the only thing I do, but tour musician, sell merch, and all that other fun stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I remember Sandy. I'm from New Jersey originally.
Gotcha.
So I remember when Sandy came through. I was still pretty young. I was probably... What year was that? That was
2012.
12. Yeah, I was in high school. I was in high school at the time. Yeah, wow. The word courage comes to mind.
Thank you.
The word courage comes to mind through all of that, through you pushing through your homelessness situation and trying to figure out how you could better your life as it stood, and also with the spousal abuse situation. Courage. That took a lot of courage to step in and to do something. And
Thank you.
I think another theme is just doing something, making that choice, that active choice to do something, whether it's for yourself or for others. So I applaud you for that. It's absolutely incredible. I am so excited to ask you more about your journey.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot.
All right. So you covered a few things about your gigging, but why music? What does it mean to you? Is there anything specific that you are trying to accomplish with your music at this point?
With things that are within my control in terms of like things we're trying to accomplish is I'm trying to finish a catalog of songs that tell a story about how I found my own sense of joy, satisfaction, and peace. And what I mean by that is how I became able to afford a home, get in the relationship, find the friends, find the community, make a difference by giving back, and how I did that musically. And I say that because I'm a musician that doesn't come from wealth. I don't have, the suburban struggle. I have an urban struggle. Granted, I lived in the suburbs during high school. I still was facing urban problems. I grew up on a street where only two of us went to college. The rest of us did not. Um, Most people that grew up in the situations I'm in don't get to have a graduate degree or a career. I'm the son of a person who is autistic and has cerebral palsy. My father assaulted my mom. Growing up, I was bullied. Like, I had so many things that I struggled with. So I write these songs to cope with my own sense of reality, but also so that people that look like me or have experienced things like me don't have to. So, like, I don't know how people will react to it. Fortunately, it's brought me here on, if Duck Can Do It podcast and many other podcasts and platforms. But I really want to be able to create a catalog of music that tells people that they could become the thing that they want to be, and they can really find their own truth. Now, on things I can't control, I want to be able to create enough music I could afford health insurance. I want to be able to have a home. Like, I live in an apartment and I'm thankful. I want to be able to have a family, like things like that. I can't be Beyonce rich, nor do I desire to be Beyonce rich, but I do desire sustainability, and I mean that so sincerely. And I do that through touring. I do that through selling T-shirts. I do that through selling records and the like. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Anytime.
So, diving deeper into how you got started, specifically, we can talk specifically about A Day Without Love, or if there's events leading up to A Day Without Love that you find important to include, feel free to do that. But what we would like to know is, what resources and people did you rely on when you were starting, and how specifically did you get started?
Certainly. So, like, in a pre-A Day Without Love world, I was doing a lot of open mics. I didn't really go by A Day Without Love. I had an idea to maybe call myself that, but, like, I was playing coffee shops and open mics for the most part. I would do covers by musicians I liked, i.e. Radiohead, Bright Eyes, Anthony Green, Dallas Green, and the like. So even Dashboard Confessional. So I started up in the MySpace era just playing music in general, right? And when I was in college, I started something called the Penn State Songwriters Club. And in that club, I wanted to get people together to create their own bands or get support from their own peers through creativity, collaboration, and community, which are three things I still stand by. So we did things such as, like, charity concerts for kids with cancer, Thon, if you're a Penn Stater, if you know that. We did things like raise money for Haiti when there was an earthquake, or Japan when there was also an earthquake, all sorts of world causes. We also threw all ages shows at one of our club members' houses, and we worked with, like, community promoters. A lot of those shows had bands such as Transit, which I know is from Boston, Oh Pioneers, Such Gold from upstate New York, Koji from Pennsylvania, and To It Over from Chicago. We booked about 65 shows in 1 year during my senior year, and we also got the locals on that. And during that time, that's just how I got familiar with music, right? And then after that homelessness thing, I would say probably from like 18 to 24, I was just doing things for others. And 24 was kind of the point where I was like, how do I do this for myself, right? Like, how can I make this dream turn into a reality to share my story of hopes and struggles, and also like motivate myself to do something better, and help others feel bigger about themselves. And I started by just phoning a friend, not to sound like it's a lifeline from How to Be a Millionaire, but who was a producer. And I said, hey, I know you're not like experienced, but can you record me? And then I had a drummer from Songwriters Club who happened to live in Philadelphia. And I said, hey, do you want to drum for me? And then the producer says, hey, I'll play bass for you. And then another friend who played guitar. And I got my friends together. So that's the first lesson. Like, if you're trying to, like, be a musician or do anything in life, find out who in your community or your tribe already has the skills to help you do what you need. And then I had another friend who was trying to be a music publicist, so they did my PR. And they had a team, and they were starting their own thing. So, like, right off the jump, my first record, Island, I pressed about 150 copies. And in 2 years, I sold them. And it was a long 2 years. But that 2 years, I was gigging a lot, trying to figure out how to gig with a full band, gig by myself, and things like that. I was discovering myself, right? And then I wrote 2 more records, funded it with a Kickstarter, funded it with album sales and a lot of sacrifice, and then I put out 2 EPs. Then I quit drinking, and then after quitting drinking, I wrote another record because my grandfather was dying of lung cancer, and I wanted to write about that. And that's when, like, the tone of my songs went from, like, emo to more folky indie rock. So if you listen to, like, my first 3 projects, like Confessions of the Innocent Mind, Island, and A Day Without Oscar, those songs are objectively emo, right? Altered tunings, twinkles, all that stuff. Then Solace was about finding comfort in my own suffering. It was a rock record. And the prequel to that, which came after that, was Diary. And Diary was self-recorded and intentionally bad mixing because the Diary is unedited. So I wanted to break the rules of a perfect, record. And both those records also launched me to a new level. Touring regionally. I started touring via Megabus and selling records because after Island, after Confessions, my next record I pressed was Island, not Island, was Solace, and I pressed 100 copies of that, and I made it a human experience because I wanted to sell 100 copies, and I made a collage to show myself, hey, 100 people care about you and care about your music. So it was like, and they're invested in you. And I started doing live sessions and YouTube stuff like that, and I started playing in other places, doing radio interviews, podcasts, magazine placements, and it got really weird because I'm like, whoa, this is me, I'm doing the thing. And then the money made from that, I started, like, just doing a cycle, just promoting myself. Then I made a documentary, and during the documentary, I wrote another record, which is the record that just came out recently, Stranger That I Met Before. But between that, I was also doing a singles record called Mega John, where I collaborated with 15 artists and other musicians and producers, and I made this record. I'm telling you how I did this by also taking you through my discography. And in between that, I'm, like, touring even a bigger area. Like, I'm going from Pennsylvania to Chicago, Pennsylvania, Iowa, Pennsylvania to Tennessee, stuff like that. Then after I sold that, I put out a documentary. Then I put out this record that just came out in October. And between that period of time, I've toured the country left to right, east to west, north to south, multiple times. I've lost count, if I'm being honest with you. But how I've been able to do it is, like, taking one hand and feeding the next hand, and being able to, it really has come from money, and it also has come from, like, networking and word of mouth. So, yeah. And now I'm working on another record, and I have a new band, and we're working on that. So, yeah.
Talk about a musical powerhouse. Incredible. Connection, collaboration, finding your people, finding the people that want to help you.
Yeah.
And just talking about what you want to do and what you're about, and getting people interested, building that community that supports you.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Where can, you just mentioned a documentary, where can people find that documentary?
You could find it on YouTube. It's called Safe X Sound Documentary. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you.
For sure.
And then if you want to, at the end, shoot me a message with that title spelled out so I can include it in one
Oh
of our
yeah,
next
I definitely
posts,
will.
that would be amazing.
For sure.
I'm sure folks would love to learn more.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. What's something that you're specifically proud of, like very especially proud of, in like related to your music career? Like one thing, if you could pick one thing that, like, when you're really down or you're feeling discouraged, what's that one thing that you draw on that you're proud of?
I'm going to say it's the fact that I still have hope that I could keep writing songs and I still have things to sing about. Um, it's hitting me that as of March or April of this year, I will have been releasing music for 11 years. And I can't say too many people can say that. And while I wish to be a larger musician, like I said, I want to be able to have health insurance and things like that. Um, I'm just happy that I could still do this, and people still listen, and I'm able to be in places like If Duck Can Do It podcast. And more so, I'm glad to see myself change to be more content with myself. Um, I feel like when you're creating, you have to have a healthy amount of being content with what you've done and not content with what you can do. Like you're always challenging yourself. Like a healthy bit of both can put you at balance, but when you're not seeing the growth, you become delusional and doubtful. And when you do see the growth and you're not trying to do better, you become arrogant. So you kind of have to balance both. So that's kind of how I try to balance myself. Keyword is try.
Thank you. Is
Anytime.
there, inspired by that answer, is there, regarding growth, how have you seen yourself personally grow? Either personality wise or, um, just capacity wise, and anything that comes to
Certainly.
mind.
Yeah, I'm still trying to test myself, like almost daily. Like this year, I'm doing a 52 songs and 52 weeks challenge. So hopefully by like week 20 or week 30, I start seeing progress in how I write. This week's only week 8 or week 7, I believe. Yeah, week 7. So like right now, it just kind of feels like I'm in the weeds. But in terms of, let me just make sure of the question again. It's more about how do I track or see my growth, right?
It can be, but the question in general was, what growth have you seen in yourself?
What growth have I seen myself?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I pretty much try to do it without using the internet. And what I mean by that is it's so easy to look at pictures and get like body dysmorphia or even though it's not like a diagnosis or a thing, but audio dysmorphia or think about how other people saw me. But how I look at it is the weight that I'm feeling when I write and create and perform as heavy as it used to be. Because when I used to perform, I would get very anxious. I would get very doubtful. I would be very self-hating, like, oh, I made a mistake or whatever. And like today, when I perform, I think of it as like, how can I connect with others and just have a good time? And know that there's going to be days where like I'm singing and I'm going to just like forget the lyrics and black out and make up something or just like blur. Uh, and that's okay because we're only human. So I think, like, to answer your question, how I see myself growing is really about how well am I loving myself and appreciating that I'm doing, you know, a new song or writing a song or working with others and things like that, as opposed to being so hard on myself. Because for so long I've been, and still am in some ways, very hard on myself. But that's kind of how I do it.
Yeah. I felt that
Yeah,
one. I definitely
yeah.
felt that one. Loving yourself as
Mm,
an artist, and
yep.
especially when you're trying to make your art your full-time job. you know, how many folks who have a full-time job could say that they make mistakes on the daily, right? Why do artists hold themselves to such a high standard that they can't make a mistake, right? It's your job.
True. True. And I mean, to answer that, I know it was more of a comment. I think it's a lot about comparing yourself to the idea of who you are versus what you actually are. And, you know, when you're doing that, you're kind of threatening yourself to ever see if anything's good. Um,
Yeah.
and the only way to know if you're writing good songs is to write songs. The only way that you know if other people think your songs are good is to release songs, good or bad. The only way to get good is to be bad. And that last one sounds very silly, but you know it's true because those sounds in your head that go on the paper may not agree with what you're trying to be. And when you keep trying, that's when it starts to flow well. That's why I'm challenging myself this year to do a 52 and 52 because I understand that some of my best ideas have been ideas that happened when life happened, not when I was trying to calculate.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
It actually brings me back to a course that I took at college. It was basically a course in collaboration, but I came out of it with like an 80-something page portfolio of just stuff, of just like little nuggets of stuff that might turn into something, might turn into a project, or might not, and they'll just sit in my binder for years and years and years until I think I could draw from it. Or it's full of stuff that I've tried and I don't really like right now, but maybe I'll like it 10 years from now and I'll have an idea for it. So I definitely agree with you that not all failures are failures. Not all mistakes are mistakes. They are all learning opportunities or just plain opportunities for the future. I wholeheartedly agree with you. So thank you for that. So when did you first realize that you wanted to be a professional musician? Was there like a specific moment that was like, okay, it's time? Or have you always wanted to be a musician since like you were little?
So I think it's a mixture of both. I think in terms of like my path as a child, a lot of things didn't make sense, but now it's starting to make sense as at the age I am now. Like as a kid, I was given a keyboard, and I didn't use annotated music sheets. I just figured it out with my hands. You know, I would make beats and like play like Mary Had a Little Lamb without using Mary Had a Little Lamb, or like I never liked music class, but I liked making music, which is probably sounds silly because while I take lessons now, I never liked music class, and I don't like music school because they're teaching you stuff that I mean, at least for me, I wasn't interested in, right? But I didn't know at the time that was like a blueprint for being a progressive, radical, punk and alternative musician. So that's what I mean by like at that time it didn't click. Like, oh, Brian, you do want to be a musician because like at the age of not at the age of 6, at the age of 11 in the 6th grade, I was writing poetry, and I was writing poetry about like women I couldn't share my feelings with because like I was shy, right? And I kept writing poems not just about women but about everything from age 11 to age 18. I didn't start putting it to like a guitar until I was like 19 or 20. But keep in mind, all of that writing was practice for me being a musician, but I didn't have the awareness like this is what I want to be. In high school, a lot of people that I surrounded myself with were people that played around with music, but I didn't realize that those were people that were more hobbyists. I just thought, hey, that's cool that you do that. I'm doing martial arts because I did martial arts before I got into music. But again, that influence, that surrounding, like, well, I was raised with my grandparents, and all my grandfather's brothers, including himself, played guitar. So I didn't even realize like this is in my family too. My uncle's a hip hop DJ and producer. So it was like all of those like things in my life, but it didn't click like, hey, this is what I want to do. But in terms of how did I know that I wanted to be like a source of income? Because like I don't, again, like I'm hard on myself, and this is just an honest flaw. I don't think I'll ever say that like I'm a full time musician until it's the only thing I do, and I do like 7 things, so it's just one of the things I do, but it's not a hobby. If that makes any sense. um, but like I think I started to think of it as like a job when I started pressing records and booking shows on a regular basis. But I started seeing myself as a musician when the idea of recording started happening. Like it started as first as like, hey, I'm writing songs. These are my feelings. I'm at an open mic. Then I was like, oh, people are singing along with this. And then it got to, hey, could I put this on like GarageBand or Logic or like all the recording tools? Then friends were asking me to record music for their senior year project, right? And I was like, sure, not thinking anything of it. And then it was just like one thing, and then it's like now, wow, I'm a musician. So
Thank you. Out of pure curiosity, what are the other things that you do to supplement your work as a musician?
certainly, so I run a podcast called Dreams Not Memes. It's been inactive, and I'm going to launch it starting this week, like relaunch it. So I've done 329 or 39 episodes. And I
Wow.
started it in 20. Yeah, I started in 2019, and the goal is to interview 1,000 people from all around the world about their job experiences and why do they do what they do. So I did that about 339 times. I'm gonna keep on doing it for another 670, 69 times, and then I'll have that podcast. And I make some passive income on that. Like I said, music and merch. I also have a day job working in the tech industry, currently unemployed, but I'm interviewing. I also have a poetry book that's on my band site, and I also have an actual book that I wrote when I was 16, and I get some supplements on that. I also do freelance consulting for creatives and solopreneurs on like how to market research and find what like they enjoy in their market and things like that, or like just like process workflows and stuff like that. Nerdy stuff. Um, and I also do a lot of session playing. So I am like a musician for hire for like people's records. So yeah,
That's so cool. It sounds like you've
thank you.
taken a lot of the skills that you've accumulated and found so many ways to monetize them or have them start feeding you in different ways and how to give back to others using those skills. That's really
Thank
awesome.
you.
You have quite the
Thank you.
collection.
Thank you.
Um, okay, here's a juicy one, so bear with me.
For sure.
Is there anything you wish you could change right now regarding business, lifestyle, workflow, efficiency, or work-life balance? If so, what would you like to change? And what would it take to make that change, do you think?
Um, I'll share this in 2 ways, like what I wish I had versus wish the things that I wish I did earlier. I wish I had an assistant, if I'm being honest with you, because there's some things I do where I go, I am truly wasting my time. So like I wish I had someone sending out DMs on Instagram 1 hour a day. I wish I had someone booking shows for me.